Hi everyone, my name's Pieta Valentine and I've written 2 books, The Resident's Voice from a Dementia Unit and The Resident's Rise from a Dementia Unit. Now today's session is going to be on food in a dementia unit. Now food is a very big feature in dementia units for residents, and one can almost consider it to be like an activity. So because it takes up so much time actually eating in a unit. Lunch, for example, which is often the main meal of the day, that's often sit down at like 12 or just before, gets served about 12:15. Out of 30 people, there's generally about 3 people serving, maybe 1 serving and 2 delivering. And so it can take 15-20 minutes before you get your meal. And of course people with dementia eat slowly, so elderly people tend to eat slowly, so the meal itself, especially if there's a main meal, say for lunch, meat and 2 vegetables, that can take 15 minutes to eat. And then dessert, the cream, the custard, the cake, go through that, relish every morsel. A good hour I would say for lunch, and probably 45 minutes for breakfast, and similar for tea. So all these meals take up about half a day of the time of the resident, which actually is good because it's socialising with the other people at the table. They get to meet the staff, they get to eat something nice, etc. So from their viewpoint, it's a positive activity. Getting to and from the table for the meals is always a bit of a mission, getting the walkers out and getting the person to the table, and it's always a bit of a crowded event. But once everyone's settled, it generally calms down. Now in terms of meals themselves and the cuisine itself, generally at units that can afford the glossy brochures of when each season they have a different menu, and generally relatives are asked to tick out all the different preferences that they think their mother or father or husband, wife would like. So it's a good activity to include the resident with that in terms of asking them what they'd like, not like, etc. Even though you may know pretty much what their preferences are, include them in with it. And if there's something new on the menu, let them try it. If they don't like it, then you can change it next time. So it's all a bit of an adventure, this food business. Now, breakfast's usually pretty standard, the toast, the wheat bix, always the big bowl of porridge. Everyone loves that in New Zealand, especially in the South Island when it's, southern regions. Lunch, the main meal, meat and 2 vegetables, and a dessert, different sorts of meat, on it goes. You can actually get vegetarian options, certainly where I've worked, which is fantastic, and often the vegetarian options are better than the meat options. So be aware that you're able to have that for your mother. She may not be a big meat eater and may not like having a big meal in the middle of the day, so even if they're not a vegetarian as such, then they can have the lighter option of the vegetarian version, and it's tasty and nice. They really make a lot of effort with the vegetarian meals I've found to date. And with the evening, it's often just soup or fruit salad or something like macaroni cheese or some favourite like that. So with the meals, you can actually, as a relative, you can come to the meals and sit with your relative and have a little social event with them at the meal time, which is fantastic if you can do this, because in that way you get to know their friends at the table, you get to know the staff, you get to know the routine of the unit, the food that's supplied, you get to help your mother with the sociability at the table if she needs it. You get to know the goings on of everything, of what is happening, so that when you're orientated, you're better able to help your mother or relative be orientated. And having a meal at the unit with your relative is a good way of doing that. Now it may just cost a few dollars, sometimes for special occasions staff let relatives come in for no charge, but usually it's not much, I don't know, $5, $10 or something for a meal, and I think it's well worth it. And it's nice actually to do it even on a regular basis, once a week or once every couple of weeks, and that way you really get to be part of a positive part of the community. Now, I've mentioned before that putting on weight is a common occurrence, especially for women who have been living on their own, small eaters, lightweight, often 20, 30 years on their own, if their husband's passed away prior, and they're not big eaters. And when they come into the unit and are presented with this a really amazing array of food, they can get into the habit of pretty much eating it all and can put on easily up to 3 kilograms a month to begin with, at least. And that means that the clothes get tight, new wardrobes are often needed to be decked out, shirt and trousers, etc. So, and the person feels uncomfortable, and also it's really difficult because it hinders their mobility. It's much easier for a lightweight person to get up and down from a chair than it is a heavy person with big hips, because then you've got to work triply hard to get out of the chair, whereas if you're light you can pretty much bounce out. So you don't want the weight going on because it's uncomfortable, people get embarrassed about it, the clothes get tight, the mobility suffers, and of course health-wise, a lot of these people with vascular dementia anyway, they've got blood pressure or some sort of problem in terms of circulation. So you don't want extra weight on, because that's only going to increase the problem. So to get around that, one of the ways is to suggest a lighter diet. Now, the lighter diet is no dessert. Instead, they get fruit salad for dessert, sometimes a bit of ice cream if the staff feel like they just want to be generous and not, have the person go cold turkey on everything, because it pretty much, in a dementia unit, no smoking, no drinking, no, you need drugs, drugs, medication, but on it goes. I mean, there's a lot of things that people have to renounce, and so sometimes staff think that, a little bit of ice cream won't go straight. But aside from that, fruit salad, and then morning and afternoon tea. If you're on the lighter diet, then it's just triangular sandwiches, or asparagus rolls, rather than the slabs of cake, which are endless, morning and afternoon tea. Big slabs of cake, that's why the weight goes on so fast. The slabs of cake and the big creamy ice cream desserts for lunch. So if you can ease out on that, and in the charts just put that you're asked to fill out, just put sandwiches and light dessert, then the person has that good chance of keeping it that light, healthier weight. Now, another thing is that for foods, let's go into drinking as well, because that's an important part of the hydration. Now, residents will get a small jug of water in their room to drink, but often they forget to. So it's important to encourage your mother to hydrate and drink water whenever you as a relative come to visit. Now, of course, they always have the cup of tea because they love the cup of tea, and that doesn't always help because it increases urgency, doesn't it? And they're always to and from the bathroom. But encourage the water, encourage them to drink the water in their room or out in the lounge. Bring in a glass of water from the kitchen, that's always easy to get, and get them to drink the water, because fluid always helps, urinary tract infections and every other. It makes you feel better, and prevents headaches, and all that sort of thing. I mean, if you start getting dehydrated, there's lots of problems that can happen. So that's one thing. Second thing is that if you're visiting and it's not morning or afternoon tea, you'd like to get your mother a cup of tea, because maybe she's feeling a bit depressed or a bit anxious, and you want to go onto the veranda to have a nice cup of tea and have a chat. That's good, that's fine, but be aware that can be a wee bit of a mission, getting the cup of tea, because hot water cisterns in dementia units are locked for safety reasons, so you have to find the key. That's not always easy to get, because sometimes it's put in different places, because staff, don't always put it in the same on the same hook in the same corner, and you have to delve around to find the key, and then that same key needs to be used for the locked fridge to get out the milk. If a staff member's around with the key, then of course it's all easy, but otherwise it can be a bit of a mission to find it. So just maybe it's best when you see a staff member around, just ask them if they can get the key for you so that you can make the cup of tea and then everything's fine. So bringing in food, it's nice, it's good, but it's best if you eat the food with the resident, not give it to staff to put in the fridge for the person to eat later. Because even though it may seem a good idea, often it just gets forgotten about. Staff are very busy, they forget that it's there, and then it's a day or two old by the time the person gets to get the cream bun or whatever. So it's not, if you make some nice fresh scones, bring in the jam and cream that some relatives do. It's fantastic. It's a lovely social occasion, and sometimes they share it with their friends as well. Something fresh and homemade is always a big boon. So this is the outline on food. It's a big deal in units, and I think if you can just tailor the food for your family members so that they're well nourished and they enjoy their meals, but at the same time they don't put on too much weight, which will disadvantage them in the long term. So that's the end of the session today. Just to mention to you that I'm going to put a link under the description down below for the books, and that's my website where you can get both books, pietavalentine.com. Thank you for the likes. Thank you for the, I think, 2 subscribers. I don't know, I might have more now. I've been doing this for a few days. Thank you for your support. We're just getting up and running. And all these videos that I'm giving now, I know I'm doing quite a few in a row here because I want those people out there who are working hard to help people with dementia in units and outside to know these practical, positive techniques that they can do to help people with dementia. So that's why all of these techniques are actually in both books, The Resident's Rise and The Resident's Voice, but I'm just doing videos on them as well, so that if you're not wishing to read the book or you haven't read it yet, then you can look at separate videos here on the various topics. So either way, you can get the information. So any questions or any comments, just let me know down below or as on the blog of the authors of my website, and I look forward to hearing from you, and thank you.